Good afternoon and welcome to the big shows. What we call this show every single day. We do it at least 4 times a week. We try and get it started right around 5 o'clock. We talk about all things Pittsburgh sports, and we always add in whatever else needs to be added in. And of course, that is generally something about the Steelers. We were coming off the U.S. Open this past weekend at Oakmont. I think a lot of you probably were there or at least watched it. J.J. Spaun, a relatively unknown guy, came out of sort of nowhere and won the event. I have been saying that for the last 24 hours, and of course, there's always people that want to argue with me. Oh, well, he did well at the Players or something. To which I say, the guy's won a total of one PGA event before winning the U.S. Open. Okay. Maybe he's going to have some sort of renaissance, but it's not like he's a 25-year-old kid. He's 34, 35 years old, whatever he is. He talked openly about maybe last year he was so bad that he was actually thinking about giving it up. I mean, come on, man. It's okay to say somebody's a relatively unknown. It's not a disrespectful thing at all. It's not a thing where I'm saying that he's, some guy that, stinks or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think he's fine, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, the other thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about the golf later, but the other impression I had about the golf this week was this. These golfers are babies. They're whiners. Whiners. What are we talking about here? They spent the whole week crying and whining about the rough being too tough. Yeah, it was. You get paid a lot of money to make shots. And if, as this Spaun guy showed, if you make the right shots, you're not in the rough and you're not whining about the rough. We had guys hitting the fairway with their, with their club. Rory smashing the tee marker. Guy, busting up a locker inside the locker room. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing here? To me, it's supposed to be a test. Period. It's supposed to be a test. And the guys that won it, well, guess what? The guys that finished at the top, they're the ones that were mentally tough enough to figure it out. Now, the next few weeks, I'm sure they'll go to some PGA event that's at some course in Florida or Arizona that's flat, and, the winning score will be minus 23, and they'll all be happy again. Well, guess what? The U.S. Open is supposed to be different, and it is. It's different than the Masters. It's different than the PGA. It's different than the British Open or whatever, the Open Championship or whatever we call it. It's different. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be the ultimate test mentally and physically. That's what it's supposed to be. So to me, we're sitting here whining about it. What are you whining about? Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit later. I had an argument with somebody, and I think that it was an argument that I said, you know what, this is something I can talk about real quickly here when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. The question to me isn't where does Aaron Rodgers fit in the AFC North or even in the AFC? Does it? That, to me, is probably not as relevant as it should be because he's 41 years old. Is he better than Pat Mahomes? No. Is he better than Lamar Jackson? No. Is he better than Josh Allen? No. Is he better than Joe Burrow? No. I think we've established that. When you look at the AFC North, we've established that. And we basically said he's better than whoever the Browns are going to roll out there on opening day. If you read some people, it's going to be Kenny Pickett. If you read others, it's going to be Joe Flacco. If you read even some others, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. But whoever they roll out there on opening day, Aaron Rodgers is better than that guy. But that's not the question you should be asking. The question you should be asking about the Steelers is Aaron Rodgers enough to elevate them to a level that's higher than what we've seen the last few years? That's the question I would have. That's the question we should be asking. Like, maybe Aaron Rodgers isn't better than Josh Allen. But if he's better than Mason Rudolph was, if he's better than, Kenny Pickett was, if he's better than, whoever else, and gives them a better chance of winning against Buffalo, that's the question you ask. I mean, you look around the AFC, it's probably still going to be the same 3 or 4 teams at the top. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, maybe the Texans. Who knows what happens with Denver and the Chargers, But for the most part, if you look at the Steelers, where they fit in the AFC, they've been a team that's been around the 5th, 6th, 7th seed or whatever, right, in that area. Sort of a wild card team that has to go on the road and play one of the best teams in the league. And guess what? They've gone home. So the question then becomes, with Aaron Rodgers, do they have a better chance of hosting a playoff game, which in theory would mean they're probably going to have a better chance of winning a playoff game? That's all I'm telling you. It feels like that to me, at least. Like, it feels to me like the number one thing is, can Aaron Rodgers get the Steelers to the top of the AFC North? He's not better than Joe Burrow. He's not better than Lamar Jackson. But was the Steelers team close enough to a healthy Bengals team? And were they close enough to a Ravens team that Aaron Rodgers gives them just enough of a bump that they can then go and win the thing? I happen to think maybe yes. I know there's a lot of people who don't think that, but I happen to think yes. That could actually happen. But again, it's not going to just happen overnight. The biggest thing is he's got to be healthy and he's got to play well, but the rest of the team has to play well. One of the great stories that we haven't told really the last 3 or 4 years is this elite defense hasn't been that elite. Hasn't been that elite, honestly, when it's needed to be. When your formula is we're going to run the ball and we're going to play great defense and we're going to win the kicking game. I mean, for a couple of years there, they had a horrible punting situation, but they finally got their punting situation better. Their coverage units, for the most part, are better. They've got maybe the best kicker in the league. So they are winning the kicking game probably almost every single game, just about every game they play. So that's a part of their formula. The other part of the formula is we're going to run the ball. They really haven't been able to run the ball very well. At times they've had a few games here and there where they've run it well, but for the most part, they haven't run it well. And the other thing is their defense. Their defense, the elite defense we keep hearing about, the one that's paid for, bought and paid for, and everything else. Guess what? No offense. It hasn't been that good. Just hasn't. It has not been that good. And so to me, when I look at it like this, I just tell you, he really, 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 really need the other parts of the team to do their part. Now, it looks like they've gotten better. It does. It looks like they've gotten better. And so to me, it's really, really important. Now, I would say it's really important. Since the defense has gotten better, they've got to go play better. They've got to go play better, period. So I just feel like we have to sit here and basically just talk about these things. But I also think it's important that we talk about a number of other things that really, really go forward. And so I don't know what you say, but to me, we've talked an awful lot about Aaron Rodgers. and I look at it like this. When you talk about it like this from Aaron Rodgers, I just feel like, it's going to be important, really, to understand that there's a whole lot more to it. A whole lot more to it. There really is when it comes to these things. And so, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is necessarily going to be the guy that, is necessarily, going to be the difference between winning and losing, as much as I think he's probably a little better than what they've had. But the other guys all have to do their part as well. And if they don't do their part, then I think it's going to be a problem. I think it's really, really difficult in many, many ways. I think it's really difficult to understand that. And that's where it comes from me. I don't know. Is that the question shouldn't be, where does Aaron Rodgers fit among the quarterbacks in the AFC North? I just think it should be a question of, does he put them above? Does he push them over the top? That's really where it's at. And I feel like it's going to be really important to keep that in mind. They're not going to be better at quarterback than about 5 or 6 of the teams, maybe 7 of the teams in the AFC. They're just not. But the rest of the team around the quarterback, if it improves just a little bit, and Rodgers is a little bit of an improvement, I don't know, looks to me like that's going to be a formula for the Steelers to get back to trying to win. So we'll see. Now, we go through the next month. It's going to be very, very interesting when you go through the next month, because there's no camps, there's no mini camps, there's no training camps, there's no, OTA camps, there's no 7-on-7 camps, there's no camps of anything. All it is basically dead air time. And, absent something like, let's say, TJ Watt signing his deal could be one thing. I mean, there's just going to be very, very little news and very, very little very little to talk about. That's all I'm going to tell you. So, I think that, we'll do some fun stuff and try and sort of break down the Steelers as much as we can and continue to talk about it and try and do everything we can possibly do in order to get to a point where, we are in training camp. And then at training camp, we'll have some shows probably from out there. We'll be able to, do some stuff to talk, to talk about it all out there. We'll be able to, really go after it in so many ways. But until then, you know what? We've got to do these abstract topics and talk about different things with respect to the Steelers. To me, I'm kind of bored with the quarterback discussion, but it seems to be what people want to talk about for some reason. I think if, a greater discussion is if you look at the other areas on the team, are there any areas that worry you? Well, we've talked a lot about receiver as well. Now, if you listen to the coaches, they're trying to say basically, that Calvin Austin is unequivocally the second guy or a number 2 receiver or whatever. All that stuff. They're trying to say that they're comfortable with Roman Wilson. They're comfortable with, the trio that they have, and they brought in Robert Woods, and they're comfortable with all that. Okay, I get it. That's what they're trying to say. I just don't get it at all. But I think they're going to probably go find a way to add a receiver. So we've talked about receiver for a long, long time. The other position we've talked about is corner. And to me, you've got Joey Porter Jr., who probably is more of a 2 than a 1. But he's been good enough that he can be a 1 for the most part if they give him a little help against the better receivers. Hopefully he, grows this year and gets rid of some of the penalties that he's gotten and some of the things that he does because he's such a physical player and all that great stuff. I get it. But to me, I think he's good enough. I think he's good enough even as a 1 maybe. But then you've got Darius Slay Jr., who's 34, 35 years old. I know he was okay last year, but I don't know exactly where he fits, obviously. I got to see what he has. My guess is that he's better than what they had last year as their second corner, but I don't know if that's still good enough. The rest of the guys, Corey Trice, James Pierre, Beanie Bishop, these guys, I don't know that they're good enough. That's the issue. And I think that when you think about it that way, okay, do they need to go add another corner? We've been talking about them adding another receiver, but do they need to go get another corner? Maybe a guy that can play outside and inside, a veteran guy, maybe somebody who, has struggled because he's in the wrong scheme. There's a lot of different ways that they can go to make it work. And that would be my thing there, honestly. Go make it work. Go find a guy that fits. Go find a guy that's good enough. I feel like that's the biggest thing to me. And so, that's something we will watch as well. Let's watch to see if the defensive backfield gets better. It might. They might add somebody, but they might not either. And I just feel like that is really, really, kind of one of those storylines we might want to watch over the next month going into training camp is, are they going to add another corner? Sorry. There was discussions about them actually sniffing around trading for a corner, even over the last week and a half. There's a number of guys. The latest one was Jalen Ramsey. There's a number of veteran guys that are out there that, maybe guys that might be available. There was discussion. The Steelers have been sniffing around a few of them, So that's a story that we might be able to follow over the next month. Do they add a corner? Do they add a receiver? I think those are the two positions left that they probably don't quite have what they need. And I'm going to tell you another one, and I know that some people probably don't want to hear this because Jalen Warren is like a cult hero around here. And, of course, Caleb Johnson because, he's a guy from Iowa or whatever. They need probably another running back. So I think there's 3 spots where they could get better. I think that they've beefed up their offensive line. I think they beefed up their defensive line. I think their linebacking group is good. They've got pretty good tight ends. I think really, if you want to tell me that, okay, what is your wish list over the next month? Here's my wish list over the next month. They find a corner, they find a receiver, and they find a running back. Don't have to be stars. Just better than maybe what their second or third guy is. If they can, I'm sure they can find a running back who is roughly as good as Jalen Warren or Caleb Johnson. Let's be honest. I'm sure they can find a receiver that's available who's better than, say, Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson or, whatever. Robert Woods. And I'm sure they can find a corner that is better than, whoever you think the third corner is on this team. I mean, let's say Porter and Slay are 1 and 2. Is it Corey Trice? Is he the the third best corner on this team? You've got Beanie Bishop, who they use as a nickelback a little bit or whatever, slot guy, whatever you want to call him. Is he your third best corner? I mean, honestly, it gets a little scary after Porter Jr. and Darius Slay. And then, of course, your running back. Is a veteran guy better than the rookie you have and the undrafted free agent that you have who's been okay? But the thing about Jaylen Warren is he really proven he can be an every down back for an entire season? I don't think he has. I don't think he's proven he can be a 25 carry a game guy. I think he's proven that when he's a nice change of pace for Najee Harris, he can do some damage. But even then, if you look at his overall numbers, he, despite the fact that people say, well, he's better than Najee Harris, well, look at his overall numbers and get back to me. Compare them to Najee Harris. So my point is, I just feel like when you look at it from that standpoint, it's one of those situations where I really believe that you have, a number of places where the Steelers need to get better. Period. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I feel like that is really, really, really the story over the next month is, can they get over the top and can they get to, can they get to where they need to get to? Can they get over the top and get to the top of the AFC North? That's a great question. I think they have a lot of pieces in place, but those are the three areas they need to get better at. And if they don't get better at them, I feel like it's kind of the same team. Game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings, Monday through Thursday. Home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. Get down to Archie's. Tell Archie I said hello when you get there. And, of course, you got to try the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich when you get there. We always do that as well. Switching gears a little bit, I feel like the Pirates missed an opportunity. Now, look, I think we all know that they're going nowhere. Okay, so let's not even pretend that, this weekend against the Cubs, they had an opportunity to, get themselves into contention or anything. But they were playing against a team that was the first place team and a team that they are theoretically chasing. They were doing that, and they maybe had a chance to, cut into the lead a little bit and all that other stuff. And honestly, they pitched well enough that they probably should have at least split the series, but instead they lost the series 3-1. Okay, it was a 4-game series. They lost the series 3-1. And if you look at the games, okay, they lost 3-2, 2-1, 3-2 in 10 innings, and then they won the game on the Skeens pitch, but it wasn't until the 10th inning they won 2-1. So they basically scored 7 runs in 4 games. And again, I thought they had an opportunity to do something. Honestly, I thought they had an opportunity to do something. And they just didn't. And that, to me, is the problem. If you win 3 out of 4, now you're starting to feel a little better about things coming off. You swept the Phillies. You won 2 out of 3 against Miami. You were what were you 5-1? I think in your road or your home stand. I mean, you could have built on that. Instead, now you're looking at it. Well, you know what? They've now lost 4 of 6. And contrary to some of the positive spins people try and put on it, they're still 8.5 games behind 4th place. Forget about first place. They're still 8.5 games behind fourth place. So while I can appreciate that they've played a little better under Donnie Kelly and Donnie Ball and all that stuff, they're still way out of it. And the reason I bring that up is not because it's any kind of a reflection on Donnie Kelly. Obviously, it seems like he's done a good job. But here's the thing, okay? Here's my thing with that. It's one of those situations where the Pirates should not kid themselves into thinking that because they played a little better of late, maybe we can, try and get back into it. And, preserving 74 wins makes no sense. Preserving 75 wins or trying to get to 76 wins makes no sense. They need to understand they are 15.5 games out of first place in a division that's not very good and 7.5 games out of fourth place. And to me, that means you go trade anybody that can bring you something back. See what you can get for Brian Reynolds. See what you can get for, Mitch Keller. See what you can get for Spencer Horwitz. See what you can get for Brian Hayes. You got to go, and Andrew Heaney's another one. See what you can get for him. You've got to go into this trade deadline with the idea that you are beginning your new rebuild. And that would start, if I was a guy, that would start with moving on from Ben Cherington. You basically say this is a new 5-6 year rebuild. That's it. We're not doing anything. Period. Until we move on from Ben Cherington. And then we're bringing in a guy who's going to understand the assignment, which is this year does not matter. We're out of it. Forget about it. Everybody not named Paul Skeens is tradable. And O'Neal Cruz, you probably want to hold on to him too. Got two guys. Everybody else should be on the block. And, a guy like David Bednar, great. I'm glad that he's really good now. Now you can really get something for him at the trade deadline from a team that needs a closer. That's what you should be looking to do. Is it fair? Is it right? I don't know, but that's the way that they need to go. Because, again, despite all the attempts of trying to be optimistic and, wow, look, they're playing better, the reality is they're way out of it, and they have no hopes of getting in it. Period. None. So that's where we're at. And that, to me, is where the Pirates are actually at. Real quickly, just to wrap it up, the U.S. Open, I think, was a really good event for Pittsburgh. Oakmont is a great venue for the actual golf. I think it's a great venue for the U.S. Open. The U.S. Open is supposed to be the ultimate test, and Oakmont is probably the toughest course, or they can make it the toughest course in the country. There's some other ones people talk about, but the bottom line is if Oakmont wants to, grow the rough like they did this weekend, make the greens the way they did this weekend, and then a couple of pin placements that can make it almost impossible to get to the pin, they could make it so that, 10 over would win over the weekend. All of that being said, I think it's a tough place for spectators. I don't think it's a great venue for spectators. I think the way that they have it roped off, because they have to, the way that you have to get around, the fact that half the course is across the turnpike. I just think there's a lot of things that really left to be desired for the fan experience. But then again, who cares about the fans these days, right? That's just sort of the attitude of these leagues. I mean, unfortunately, that's just sort of how it is. You know, that's how they do things. But the course is great for the U.S. Open. I just don't know that it's great for the fans that want to go to the U.S. Open.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.